My wife went to Mexico last week for a friend's bachelorette party, and aside for the plane ticket, the hotel and the first day's food and drinks, she didn't spend a penny all week. I mean, on the credit card it's as clear as day that on Monday up until about 9 p.m. she was buying dinner, stuff at the hotel shop, drinks at the bar, souvenirs, and then at 9 p.m. she didn't spend another cent the entire week until she was at her layover airport in Dallas. She says it's because her friend took over and paid for everything. I guess this is plausible, but it still is giving me a funny feeling. What is worse is that my wife is a person who posts her entire life on Instagram, on TikTok, mostly Instagram, but if she does anything from get a latte to picking the kids up at school, she will post it either as a picture or as a story. The last thing she posted on TikTok was that trend of people jumping into their vacation from the airport, and after that her social media is blank. I was kind of keeping an eye on it because I was excited for her to go on the trip, and again I guess it's plausible, but it gives me a funny feeling. When she got home I said I can't wait to see all the pics she took, and she really blew me off and said that she just didn't feel like taking pics that week. She has also been incredibly distant, and last night she said she just felt like sleeping on the couch because the AC hits better. This is 100% true, but I swear I heard her talking on the phone in the middle of the night. When I got up to check on her I accidentally tripped over the dog and made a huge racket, so when I got downstairs she appeared to be asleep. I brought all of this up this morning and said I'm not accusing her of anything, but all this put together is making me feel uneasy. I wasn't trying to bait her or fight with her, just get my feelings on the table. She said you a major fucking asshole for bringing this up on her first day back at work. I said I wasn't trying to pry, just communicating with her, and she said your communication is prying and I am not discussing this with you ever again. She then took the kids to summer camp and left. Her friend posted on social media up until about the third day, but there were no pics or tags of my wife, and then that friend deleted everything from a couple of days leading up to the trip. The bride-to-be rarely posts, so it's not surprising that she doesn't have much. Update 1. So I realized that her text probably synced to her iPad, so I just checked. It took me a while to figure out the passcode, but I did. But there was a message at 9:15 the night she got to the resort from a number with no contact info that said, okay, I'll meet you in the lobby. Is the app you said Signal? I looked up Signal and it's kind of like WhatsApp. The iPad doesn't have Signal on it. Edit 2. If you have been following my comments, you've seen that my sister is coming over, and she's an insane internet sleuth and is relentless when it comes to this cheating stuff. She also scares me a bit, so I'm hoping this isn't a mistake. I'm going to probably stop responding for a while so we can talk and she can do her thing. I am numb, but she can do this. Thanks for everyone and the nice comments and the reality check. It's not looking good. Edit 3. She cheated. My sister was able to get lots of info from the real estate guy, and my wife denied it at first but then admitted it. Soru, it took so long to update, but I'm numb. Have literally zero idea what to do now. Oop, I love my little sister to death, and obviously her skills and tenacity were invaluable here, but I don't think the world is ready for how vicious she can be. Oop, my sister had a burner phone and texted him as my wife that her husband, me, was suspicious, so she had a new phone and for him to contact her on Signal there if he wanted to stay in touch. Literally in seconds he sent a Signal message, and through the course of an hour or so my sister, again pretending to be my wife, was able to get him to reminisce about the week they had. He sent pics of them together in a bar, them on the beach together, etc. We took pics of the Signal messages with another phone, so there is 100% smoking gun evidence of her with the guy and him saying how much fun they had. Oop, what I can't get over is how sleazy the guy is. He's not attractive, he's overweight, his real estate website reads like some get-rich scheme. He literally looks like Tony Soprano with 30 extra pounds and greasier hair. I'm ripping myself up because I just don't get it. I probably make more money than he does, combined we certainly do, so what did he have that was worth it? Is it that I spent our money on maxing out retirement accounts and college savings and not flashy BS like he obviously does? I mean, I could understand if she was attracted to hippie or rock climber / surfer dude with rock hard abs, but this guy makes it so much worse. I feel like such a failure. Oop, I'm sorry, I've had well over 1,000 questions asking for clarification. If you are asking how we found out who the guy was, it went like this. I logged into my wife's iPad and there was a single message from an unknown number where my wife said she would meet him in the lobby and asking what the Signal app was. I googled that number and it's a real estate agent's number who works in South Florida. I found his Instagram and was able to verify that he was in fact in Mexico this past week, supposedly on a golf trip with his friends. Update 2. For people looking up our personal stuff, we don't live in Lubbock, nor does my wife work for the Lubbock school system. We grew up in the area and went to college there, but have long since moved to another community. Please don't try to research this, as you may hurt someone who is totally not involved. I'm getting lots of advice to delete this and I don't want to, but I may have to. Edit 5. I know people really want updates and we've been talking, arguing, screaming, threatening all day long. I'm more confused than I was this morning, that's for sure. But I'm also confused, exhausted, sad, upset, nervous, and I don't know what to do. I did make a preliminary appointment with a family law attorney tomorrow to talk about protecting assets and how to navigate the legal way ahead regardless of what I chose to do. I will say that there's S subreddit that this was cross-posted to, and it may be the most toxic group of people I've ever seen online, and I feel really bad for those people. As for the privacy issues, no one has figured out who we are. That's not a challenge, by the way. I'm very tired and I doubt people are still invested, but if there's still interest I can update either on this post or a new in a few days. I'm really hoping to sleep tonight. My sister still has the kids and they are having a blast and went to the lake with her boyfriend's family today, so I'm glad they are in good hands. Oop, in one of her more lucid moments today I was begging her to tell me why she chose a guy who weighs 300 pounds with greasy hair on his fourth marriage with at least 6 kids, and she flat out told me he made her feel special. I guess I don't know women at all because I've spent my entire life trying to not be that guy and have my wife set up for retirement, my kids set up for college, we have a nice second home on the lake. I took risks to move from engineering to management in my company so I could provide our family with everything. I work late hours, I love my kids and coach little league and volleyball and swimming even though I can barely doggy paddle. I love her parents and paid for them to go to Hawaii with us last year. And fucking fat Tony Soprano with his rented Ferrari on his awful Florida real estate site made her feel special, and I'm looking at the prospect of legitimately not seeing my kids on Christmas morning ever again. Oop, in 1 minute she's devastated and begging me not to do anything rash and asking me to think of what the kids will do being raised in a split household, and in the next she's utterly unapologetic and telling me I caused all of this. I'm all over the place emotionally too, so I get it, but it's a little hard to hear that I caused this. Oop, it will definitely happen, but I need to talk to the lawyer tomorrow first. I think if I hadn't asked my sister to babysit yesterday and today, this would now be a viral cheater story all over TikTok with the pics to prove it. Oop, no, nothing graphic, just like selfies taken at the bar with arms around each other, them sitting on the beach in lounge chairs sort of snuggled up. There's a few pics where he paid for her to do parasailing and riding ATVs. There's enough where she can't deny she was spending time with him, but nothing graphic enough that would make me want to blow my brains out. Update 3. This has been the worst week of my life, and it's been an absolute whirlwind of activity trying to get things set up in a life that I don't even really recognize anymore. First of all, I am now in the process of getting a legal separation from my wife with the aim of getting divorced. She and I both want to take the process very slow so it's fair to everyone. I do have a personal lawyer who is handling the separation, but even she recommends that it will be cheaper and easier for us to do a mediated divorce. She, the lawyer, not my wife, has a colleague who has this sort of package deal where we will work with a certified counselor while we are meeting with a mediation lawyer to handle the legal aspects. The goal is to learn to be co-parents and friendly while go through the breakup. I know my wife is hoping to see the counselor with the aim of reconciling. I am doing the counseling so I can learn how to treat her with some sort of respect as the mother of my kids for their benefit. I can't possibly see reconciling, but I guess stranger things have happened. Those of you who read along last week know that my sister is one of those internet sleuths who, if you tell her a first initial and someone's eye color, she can come up with a person's entire life history in a matter of minutes. I've pretty much let her handle all of the dirty work. She did some research on the guy and he's an absolute piece of shit. He has judgments and liens against him all over the country. He has 6 kids with 4 different women and is delinquent on child support on most of them. It seems like his mo is to just wait until the kids turn 18 and hope they stop coming after him. And this is the guy my wife picked to ruin everything for. My sister did get in touch with his current wife and said that she has pics and text messages that prove he was cheating, and so far has not heard back from her. Who knows what's going on with that? My assumption is it's happened so many times, she expects it and/or tolerates it, but maybe we'll hear back from her. My wife and I are still in the house together until the separation is official, and we may continue to be even after the legal separation is done. I just don't know, and I figure as long as we can be friendly to each other then it's okay. I had to go away on business last week, and when I got back on Saturday it was pretty clear the fight in her was gone and she wanted to talk and accept full responsibility and was willing to come clean about the whole thing. I told her I really didn't need to hear any more because her affair partner had confessed the whole thing and even sent pics. I think her thing is that she's utterly humiliated and has been very quiet, even obsequious as her general manner around the house. It's not really what I want because I didn't get married to have a servant, and the change in her normal fiery and funny personality is only a reminder that something is really wrong. Kids are doing fine. They are spending a lot of time with my sister and her boyfriend and his family, so hopefully looking back this will just be the summer before their parents got divorced and are missing the turmoil in the house. I guess if there's questions I can try to answer them, but that's pretty much what's been going on. Oop, good questions. I don't think there was anything planned for the trip to Mexico. It seems like my wife just met the guy in the bar on the first night and he charmed her and it was off to the races. My wife is insistent that the other women didn't cheat, and she says they are totally disgusted with her for her behavior on the trip, and basically they had you tell him or we will threat against her when they found out that she was actually sleeping with him. Since I found out on the first day of her being back, they didn't need to carry through. I have no idea if any of that is true or not, but my lawyer did advise to handle informing their SOs very carefully. Oop, she didn't know to use Signal, he's the one that told her about it and told her to download it. Oop, she claims she hasn't been in touch since Saturday before they left. They came back last Monday, and is willing to let me go through her phone to prove it. She claims the middle of the night couch phone call was one of the friends who were making sure she knew that they were telling me if I didn't. Now on to second story. Uninvited my adopted brothers from my wedding after feeling rejected. Now my parents are refusing to attend and I'm baffled. I'm a 32-year-old man, and I'm getting married to my longtime girlfriend soon. What should be one of the happiest moments of my life has turned into a heartbreaking ordeal because of a deepening rift in my family. To give you some background, I'm my parents' biological son, and when I was 12, they adopted two boys who were biological siblings, Jack, who was 8, and Liam, who was 5. From the very beginning, it was clear that things were going to be tough. Jack came with severe behavioral issues due to some intense trauma. I'll spare the details, but it was significant. I tried my hardest to be understanding, but living with him was nothing short of exhausting. His outbursts were constant, and I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, terrified of setting him off. As we grew older, I continued to try to be there for Jack, despite everything. A few years ago, Jack fell into a devastating drug addiction. I stood by him through his darkest moments, supporting him through rehab, and doing everything I could to help him get back on his feet. It was draining and heartbreaking, but I did it because I loved him and believed that, despite our challenges, we were still brothers. The situation came to a head recently at a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My son was working on his summer homework, which involved creating a family tree. He innocently asked Jack if he wanted to be included, and Jack just flat out said no. He didn't want to be part of it because, in his exact words, we're not real brothers. He said it so casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, with no regard for how much it would cut me to the core. I was utterly stunned, but what shattered me even more was that Liam, who I've always felt closer to, just sat there in silence. He didn't say a word. He didn't defend me or even acknowledge how hurtful Jack's words were. He just let it happen. I've tried so hard to be supportive of both of them, especially Jack, despite the endless challenges. So, for Jack to say that, and for Liam to do nothing, felt like a gut punch. It was as if they were both telling me that I was never truly part of their family. I decided to uninvite both Jack and Liam for my wedding. My fiancé has been nothing but supportive of my decision, but my parents are furious. They've made it clear that if Jack and Liam aren't invited, they won't attend either. It feels like history is repeating itself, with my parents once again prioritizing Jack over me, no matter how much it hurts me. I'm absolutely heartbroken that my parents would choose to miss my wedding rather than support me in this. I know Jack has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to be there for him and for Liam, despite all the heartache. And now, I feel like I'm the one being punished for finally standing up for myself and setting some boundaries. Update 1. Buckle up, because things have taken a wild turn. After hearing from so many of you, I decided I needed to talk to Liam. We met up at a pub, and I just laid it all out there, how hurt I was when he didn't say anything after Jack made that awful comment about not being real brothers. I was half expecting him to defend himself, but what I got was something entirely different. Liam confessed that he's been living in fear of Jack for years. He told me he kept quiet that night because he was terrified of setting Jack off, not because he agreed with him. Then he dropped a bombshell. Despite being Jack's biological brother, he's felt just as much of an outsider in our family as I have. The constant pressure from our parents to cater to Jack's every whim has worn him down, too. Liam assured me that he's always seen me as his brother and that he regrets not standing up for me sooner. Hearing that was a huge relief. He's completely on my side now, and we agreed that if Jack can't respect me as a brother, he has no place at my wedding, or in our lives. But just when I thought things couldn't get more intense, my parents decided to make everything worse. I sat them down and explained why I uninvited Jack, hoping they'd understand. Instead, they threw down an ultimatum: if Jack isn't invited, they're not coming to my wedding. No room for discussion, no empathy, just flat-out refusal. I was gutted. After all these years of putting Jack's needs above mine, this is how they repay me? I couldn't hold back anymore. I let out all the anger and frustration I've been bottling up for years. I told them how I've always been the one sacrificing, how they've always prioritized Jack, and that I was done being treated like I don't matter. I made it clear that if they choose not to come to my wedding, they're making their choice, and I'll make mine. With that, I walked out, leaving them to stew in their own decisions. Out of nowhere, Jack started bombarding me with the nastiest, most hurtful texts I've ever received. He accused me of turning Liam against him, of ripping the family apart, and had the audacity to call me selfish for abandoning him. He ranted about how he never felt like he belonged in the family and how it's all my fault for pushing him away. His words hit hard, but they also opened my eyes. Jack has spent his whole life blaming everyone else for his problems, and I've been his favorite scapegoat. This time, though, I'm not letting him guilt trip me. I didn't even respond, I just blocked his number. If he can't see what he's done wrong, then there's nothing more to say. Liam was livid when I told him about Jack's messages. He's more determined than ever to support me, and we've decided to go low contact with our parents until after the wedding. Liam's been a rock through all this, helping me with the wedding plans and making sure I'm not dealing with this mess alone. So, the wedding is still happening, but with a much smaller guest list. My parents haven't reached out since our argument, and at this point, I don't care if they show up or not. This day is about me and my fiancé, and I'm not letting anyone, not even my own family, ruin it. Update 2. 2 days after the text argument with Jack, he reached out to me. I wasn't sure what to expect when he asked if we could meet up, and I was reluctant, but I agreed. When we sat down, the first thing he did was apologize. He told me how sorry he was for what he said to my son and admitted that he didn't know why he said it. Jack seemed genuinely remorseful, and I could tell that he really meant it. This wasn't just another apology to smooth things over, this was different, and it felt sincere. After apologizing, Jack took a deep breath and confessed something that I probably should have seen coming. He told me that he had relapsed before the argument even happened. Hearing that hit me hard. It explains so much about his behavior in the weeks leading up to that moment, the irritability, the distance, the way he was withdrawing from everyone. I realized that I had missed all the signs. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was so caught up in my frustrations with Jack's behaviors and my wedding that I didn't stop to think that something deeper might be going on. Jack's confession wasn't just about the relapse, it was about taking responsibility in a way he's never done before. He went on to tell me that after realizing the damage he'd caused, he had made the decision to check himself into treatment. This might sound like a typical step, but for Jack, it was monumental. In the past, Jack's only gone into treatment because he was either sectioned by social services and forced into it, or because my parents threatened to kick him out if he didn't get help. But this time, he made the decision on his own. That was something he'd never done before, and it showed me that he was serious about wanting to change. He told me that he is doing this because the prospects of losing me, his brother, was too much and he couldn't handle it. He wants to take this seriously because he wants to show me he can do it. He told me he sees me as his family, and he feels so guilty for making me feel like I wasn't his family. Jack has also agreed to start taking medication to help calm his nerves, something he would never do before. It's now been about 5-6 days since Jack checked himself in for treatment, and I've been visiting him regularly. At first, I went alone because I wasn't sure how my son would feel about seeing Jack so soon after everything that happened, but after a few visits, I felt it was important for my son to see that Jack was making an effort to make things right. So, I brought him along, and Jack took the opportunity to apologize to him directly. It was a really emotional moment for me as a parent. My son is still young and doesn't fully understand everything that's been going on, but he could see that Jack was sorry, and that seemed to make a difference to him. They even spent some time together, just talking and playing, and it felt like a big step forward for all of us. Throughout all of this, my brother Liam has been incredibly supportive. We've talked a lot about Jack, and it's clear that Liam wants to see him succeed just as much as I do. We both know how much Jack's trauma has affected him, and while it doesn't excuse his behavior, it does help us understand why he's struggled so much. Having Liam by my side through all of this has made me feel a lot less alone. Reflecting on everything, I've come to realize that I need to take responsibility for my part in how things escalated. In the weeks leading up to the argument, Jack had been doing things that really got under my skin. Instead of addressing it calmly, I let my frustration build until I finally snapped. Looking back, I can see that his behaviors were likely tied to his relapse, and I should have seen that sooner. I feel guilty for not recognizing the signs and for reacting the way I did, but I'm trying to focus on what I can do to support Jack now that he's taking his recovery seriously. When I wrote my first 2 posts, I was in a place of deep frustration with Jack, and though nothing I said was incorrect or a lie, I definitely painted a picture of Jack's most negative moments without everything else. I want to remind everyone about Jack's trauma. Jack was a victim of severe abuse by his biological family, including extensive CSA, Liam also, but Jack's was a lot more intense. Jack jokes now that he was their biological father's favorite in all the wrong ways. Jack got into drugs at a pretty young age, but has been clean, or so I thought, for a while. I mentioned this before, but Jack has told me in the past that even now, almost 20 years after he was adopted by our parents, there is not a day where he doesn't think/have nightmares about his abuse. He says the only moments of peace he gets is when he's high. Jack's trauma runs deep, and it's something that continues to affect him every day. I'm not making excuses for his actions, but I do think it's important to remember that he's dealing with a lot of pain. Despite everything, I still believe in Jack. I believe that he has the strength to overcome his past, and with Liam and me by his side, I'm hopeful that he can get through this. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who offered advice and support on my last post. Your words helped me see things from a different perspective and gave me the push I needed to approach this situation with more compassion. There's still a long road ahead, but I'm optimistic that we're on the right path now. For now, things are looking up. Jack is taking his treatment seriously, and our family is slowly healing. We're taking things one day at a time, and I'm committed to supporting Jack as long as he's committed to helping himself. Thank you all again for your support. Your advice has been invaluable during this difficult time. Some of you may call me weak or naive for thinking this time will be different. But I am prepared to take that risk one more time for Jack, as he has shown me over the last week he is genuinely wanting treatment and he wants to be better. Jack's told me he wants to earn back his invite, but not to give it him yet. He said he will prove he deserves it. I really hope so. Some therapy would probably be useful. I haven't had it for a long time now. My parents are still being my parents. I've come to realize that every time they get involved in my relationships they just make things worse. But, at least things aren't worse than they were before, and they apologized to me for saying they wouldn't come to my wedding.